So this is a panel that has a risk at times of getting into technical detail, which we'll try not to do. At the Association for Electronic Music, we campaign on a number of industry issues that are specific to electronic music. We campaign on changes to drug policy, campaigning for diversity and inclusion, but also one of the key campaigns is to make sure that wherever music is played and heard, that the music is identified and that performing rights organisations and collective management organisations around the world.
I think one of the
speakers has arrived. Get another chair across. Is paid to the right people. There you go. One of the tools. I'll just walk. Hello.
Bring your chair.
There you go.
Thank you.
One of the tools that's used to do that is DJ Monitor, which is run by Yuri to my left. And about 5 years ago, when we started the campaign, there was one country in the world that used technology to identify music to pay to the right people, which was Holland and Boomstemra. And then quickly after that was Australia. And now we're in a situation where I think nearly 11 to 12 countries around the world are using technology to identify music and pay the right people. And making that happen requires support from industry bodies, performing rights organisations, DJs, clubs, distributors, many different people. Hi. And so we've gathered a number of different people here today, really just to talk about the landscape locally and globally and how everybody can work together to make sure that music is identified and that royalties are paid to the right people. So before we go any further into the discussion, let's do some introductions. If we could start with you and then we'll move across. Who are you and what do you do?
Shay Berman, the General Manager of the Israeli Restaurant and Bars Association.
Oh, thank you. I'm Jacob Kurtz. I'm the chairman of hall events in Israel. We have 700 hall events, big hall events, and we take care of the happiness in Israel.
Very nice. I'm Christian Smith. I am an artist, I'm a DJ, and I have a record label.
I am Anna. I am an owner of a Gagarin club. We specialize in underground music in Tel Aviv.
My name is Ralf Boege. I'm the CEO of Paradise Distribution. We distribute and produce content.
I'm Yuri, Dokter. I founded a company called DJ Monitor. We monitor events and clubs around the world.
Yuri, maybe if I could start with you. Could you describe to us how things often work in countries when it comes to rights being paid to the right people, what those rights are, and how the industry works around making sure that music is identified and paid?
It's a good one because there is no one set rule for all of the countries, as you probably know. But in general, there is a tariff for venues, and there's a tariff for events, and we usually have to monitor both of them. Of course, we do additional channels as well, like radio and internet, Spotify, SoundCloud, whatever. But the general licenses based on clubs, pubs, for instance, in the UK, are based on the square meterage, etc., etc. And then you have the event licenses, which can be held in venues as well, but also outside of the regular venues like stadiums, etc., etc. So those are played pay-per-play, and the previous ones are paid out on the basis of reference repertoire. So it's statistical more than anything else.
And I suppose what we should really do is now just check the local landscape in Israel, of course, and to understand your relationship and your members' relationship and your own relationship commercially with the local performing right organisation, and how do you pay money and then what happens next?
Okay, I apologize for all the English speakers. I will talk in Hebrew, unfortunately, but I don't have something wise to say, so don't feel bad. תראו, השוק בארץ הוא בעצם כזה שכל אחד עושה מה שבא לו, למעשה אין איזשהו, החוק בארץ אומר שהסכום בגין הזכויות יוצרים צריך להיות איזשהו סכום סביר, כלומר זו ההגדרה בחוק, שזה משהו, סליחה על הביטוי, מטופש לגמרי. מה זה סכום סביר? אצלנו בענף המסעדות, בשנתיים האחרונות, יש הרעה מאוד במצב העסקים, אנחנו יכולים לשלם כל סכום, מועדונים אותו דבר, מי שיש לו פה מועדון אולי, יש פה מישהו עם מועדון? כן. מועדון צריך לשלם גם זכויות יוצרים, יש לכם את העניין של התפוסה, שגם משפיע מאוד על המודל העסקי של ענף המועדונים בארץ. בבריטניה התפוסה היא 3 אנשים למטר, אצלכם פה זה בן אדם למטר, וזה משהו שהורג פה את המועדונים. אז יש הרבה בעיות שהן בעיות שונות מחול, ולכן צריך להיות פה, מה שאנחנו היום עובדים עליו, זה איזשהו טריבונל, כמו בית דין לזכויות יוצרים, שבעצם יקבע גם את התעריפים. כלומר, המצב היום שפה כל גוף, שהוא למעשה גוף שהוא מונופול, הגופים האלה הרי מונופול, אי אפשר להביא אלטרנטיבה. אז הם יכולים לעשות מה שהם רוצים. הממונה על ההגבלים העסקיים לא באמת מתעניין בדבר הזה. לקחת את זה לממונה להגבלים העסקיים, שזה גוף שיכול לפתור את הבעיה הזאת, זה משהו שדורש משאבים מאוד גדולים, שלא תמיד מועדונים שלא מאוגדים, מסעדות שגם רובם לא, לצערי לא מאוגדים, הרבה פעמים אנחנו נתקלים באיזושהי בעיה לוגיסטית להרים איזשהו מאבק אמיתי, אבל אנחנו היום מנסים בשיתוף פעולה של ארגונים רבים, ארגון בעלי האולמות, המלונאים וארגונים נוספים, איגוד לשכות המסחר, לנסות לייצר איזשהו בית דין כזה באמת, שהוא יהיה האוטוריטה מהבחינה הזאת של זכויות יוצרים, ולא ייווצר מצב כמו היום, שיש איזה 5 גופים, אתה לא יודע למי לשלם מה, אתה לא יודע של מי התוכן, הכסף גם לפי מה שאני מבין לא מגיע באמת לאומנים, לשם זה צריך ללכת, ובעלי עסקים לא באמת יודעים למי הם צריכים לשלם וכמה הם צריכים לשלם. הוא שילם לאקום, ואז פתאום הוא מקבל את הדרישת שלו מהפדרציה, ואז יבואו אשכולות ויבואו אחרים, והוא נמצא באיזושהי סיטואציה כאוטית, קשה לתכנן קדימה. ברור גם שהדרישה לאחוזים מהמחזור בכל מה שקשור להכנסות של העסק היא דרישה הזויה לגמרי. זאת אומרת, הדרישות האחרונות זה רק מראה את הניתוק מהמציאות של הגופים האלה שבאים ואומרים לך תשלם לי מההכנסות שלך מהבר ותשלם לי מההכנסות ועל הכרטיסים שאתה מוכר, בלי להבין את המודל העסקי של ענף המועדונים שהוא קשה. קשה, בסוף זה עסק שעובד יום, יומיים בשבוע מקסימום, עם רגולציה אימתנית, קשה מאוד לשרוד בתחום הזה, יש גוף שהוא כאילו מנותק מזה, רוצה את הליטרת בשר שלו, ומצידו שיחנקו כולם.
Now I am going to need a very short English version of everything, because otherwise I can't ask the next question. So sorry for being a stubborn Englishman. So can someone give me a concise translation?
Do you have a summary of what you just said in English? Very short? Like 1 paragraph?
I think you can make it, no? In English, look, in Israel now there's like 5 different groups that have the rights for all the music and which we have to pay them. Unfortunately, situation in Israel is that they actually rate their prices. And because there's no other alternative, they can do whatever they want. And this is it.
It's like everywhere else in the world, basically.
And you don't know where it's going next? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Again, English is a problem, but I'll try in English. I know what Shay said. We have the same problem. We host the DJs in our places, and we in charge for the payment to all the זכויות יוצרים. And we don't know if the people that had to get the money are getting the money. As we know, those associations that get the payment from us, most of the money going to lawyers, owners, and some other political people that involved, and not to the people that had to get the money. Somebody in Israel had to make something, to change it. I don't know who will do it. Maybe somebody that will make a new politician that will come to the government and will take it as something that he must change. We cannot continue with it. This is why we're trying now to make something. But maybe what we will had to do is to start the next year, 2019, and tell all our members not to pay anymore. I think this will be this will be, if in this year will not be any change of this regulation, I can tell you that only our association paying to only the 700 that I told you before, paying something like 50 million shekel every year. And I don't know where it's going. In this year, we will try to go to negotiate with them. And I think if we will not get any development and and not something new that will help us for our business and will help for the zamarim, omanim, and DJs, we will have to make something as not paying anymore.
But cannot you start a lawsuit against them? Because we have the same situation in Germany. We have a performing rights organization, and let's say they don't work accurate, or they have a lot of reserves and nobody knows what it's about, and
But you have one. We have five.
But let's start with the biggest one. I mean, in Germany, the Independent Association, they started a lawsuit against this performing rights organization because of similar reasons. So, and I mean, Israel is based on a legal system, so you can go to court. Well, I mean, if somebody doesn't pay you, you go to court. Huh?
I'll just ask, as a club owner, what's the pressure that's put on you, and how challenging is it for you to make sure that you make the payments, and do you know what happens next? What's the situation for you?
There is no proper regulation whatsoever in terms of royalties for artist rights, okay? It's completely voluntarily. It looks like Boege, we want you to pay, 10% for what you own, 15%. It doesn't really reflect anything that we currently are making in the club. I run an underground club specializing in very, very, unique music. Mostly it's not protected even. But I have no option to prove it to those organizations. They charge me, they send me letters, they charge me. Currently I'm in a lawsuit with them also for quite a big amount of money that I even don't earn from this club. And really it's not something, that it's really productive, because they are going to be left with no places for running music.
Actually, we had a conversation during the last Tel Aviv volume, both actually a year before that with ACUM and with the Federation, IFPI. And basically their premises is we cannot spend money of our members on something called monitoring technology, which actually allows monies being received by the proper people that were being played. So they say, we don't pay for that because, that would cost us maybe 0.5% or, part of a percentage. But then again, it would solve the problem. They say, no, we're not going to spend that, but rather we would pay 100% to the wrong persons. So that is their whole way of thinking that we have dealt with here with ACUM and with Federation. We don't spend any money on this, nothing whatsoever, and then we pay 100% of the money to the wrong people.
And the reason, Christian, I kind of dragged you up on stage, right, is as a producer in your own right, as a label boss, and as a DJ, more importantly, how many times when you've played around the world have you been asked to write down your set list or have known that technology is listening in to make sure your set list is known?
I do around 100 gigs a year in maybe 20, 25 countries. The last time I was asked to provide my set list was at a festival in Florianópolis, Brazil, 5 years ago.
And I kind of think that sums it all up, because we're in a situation where someone who DJs a lot and DJs in many countries can remember the last time they were asked to what they played. So the problem runs deep. So I think, Ralph, if we go back to your point about Germany faced huge issues. GEMA, the performing rights organisation in Germany, sought to increase the tariffs, as has been increased here. And you had people on the streets, and you had nightclubs standing up and fighting against it. What happened, and what was the result?
Well, the clubs are not really so massively supporting this complete, we call it the supply chain, you know, so music recognition technology like DJ Monitor, sending data to them, so that's something we try to explain them on a daily basis, but the clubs are not so, they don't have such a big knowledge, so you need to explain it to them, for sure. I mean, they have an interest to that the royalties go into the direction of you, because you played the gig and not Justin Bieber or somebody else, but that's a status quo at the moment. We need to explain them everything, how it could work, how music recognition technology companies like DJ Monitor can change the game, and that we might have probably the situation in 3 or 4 or 5 years that we can change the game completely, that we don't need them anymore, the PROs.
Well, we were actually quite involved with those protests, of course, with Music am Rhein and with the Club Commission back in those days. And what I understand, the biggest problem was that GEMA started charging by the hour. And for some of the venues like Watergate and Berghain, which were open for from Thursday until Monday, this represented 3,000-4,000% increase on what they had to pay. And that was simply not acceptable. By implementing this, they would simply kill all the nightclub initiatives and, therefore get no revenue at all.
Just back to you, Yuri, what would you say is a shining example in the world of how it should work? Is there one? Is there a good best practice?
There's there's a lot of PROs out there that really try to do well, and they put up their best effort, but there's no single PRO that really offers all of the pillars that are needed in order to do this well, which are transparency, first of all, and accountability and good governance. All of those pillars are needed. Even if they provide transparency, then usually they don't follow up well with the actual payments. So we have publishers calling us we were played so many times on these and these festivals, and we saw it on the playlist, and we should get this and this money. But we're not, it's not we don't pay out the money. Yep. The distribution, that's up to the PROs. So all of these pillars have to be followed up correctly. And to be honest, we're getting there, but it's still a way to go.
So I'm interested from a local perspective. Yuri, I think, made the point earlier, why don't you turn it around and take the 5 performing right organisations to court? I think the idea of going on strike actually financially is a great idea, but then they take you to court, I guess. What is the game plan and you're already in a legal challenge with them. How strong are they? How strong are you to respond to them and say, no, we're not paying you until you pay the right people?
First of all, we have a problem as an association to tell people don't pay. There's 2 problems with this. One of this is against the law, because it's making a strike that a lot of people, a lot of business make strike, it's against the law in Israel. In the second hand, we are now in a situation that we tell somebody not to pay. This guy will probably sue from this organization, and unfortunately, we don't have the way to help them. So this is a problem. That's why I think that we should go to the parliament to try to regulate them and to make moves in the parliament to end it. This is one way. The other way is in the court, but in the Supreme Court. But this is also in Israel go very, very slowly and takes a lot of money. Of course, everything costs a lot of money. If you go to the parliament, this is the biggest problem financially. But this is the way. I don't know any other way. The way is to go and to make this court that I talked about it earlier, that will give the rights for the rates for the maximum rates that those organizations can take from the clubs and restaurants and whatever. So this is I think the way. One of them is this court that we are trying to come with. In the other hand, it's going to the parliament and make some rule that will help us. The problem in the parliament that in the public opinion, like the artists, they don't like the business. So if they will get low the rates, so they say, okay, you are now, we don't have nothing. The singers and the DJs will come and say, okay, we are don't have nothing to eat. So this is something that politicians don't like.
But at the moment, I guess those artists, even though the rate is high, aren't getting the money because no one's recording what the music is. So that argument, you could push back and find 10 Israeli artists and say, what money have you had recently? Have you had what they say you should have?
This is the way to deal with it in the terms of public opinion. To say, okay, those organizations are rich. They take the people for the office and for the car and for the big salary, and the artist remain poor.
What we deal with a lot is internationally. Have you looked at the rates and how they translate internationally again? I mean, the rates in Israel and, for instance, the rates in surrounding countries in the Middle East and kind of the rates in Europe, etc., etc. Have you done a comparison at all? If they are reasonable or not?
They are not reasonable, and they are quite high than Europe. And the second problem is that the business in Israel, in the restaurant, bars, clubs, are very poor. We're dealing with the restaurant. That 80% from the restaurant in Israel are shutting down in the first 5 years that they are actually work. So this is a bad business in Israel, and you have to consider that when you are getting the rates for the music.
What help could the international community, could those of us that have worked on this campaign in Europe and America, Australia, South Africa, South America, what help could we give you in your fight against the rates that you're being charged?
I don't think that somebody make a research about what's going on all over the world, and I am sure that if we will have the know-how and the knowledge, and we know what's going on in other countries, the only thing that I know that's maximum two organizations in every country. We have 5. This is the problem. One of the problem. We don't know what's going on, and if we have the information, it will be helpful, because we can take the information from Europe, for example, to our government and tell them, okay, we are part of the OECD, so let's take from the OECD the same regulation.
Well, one of the things that we do is, for instance, that we do a members research. So all of the organizations, and now we're talking about ACUM, who's part of CSAC, we can look into how much of the music played is actually being represented by ACUM or CSAC, because they have reciprocity, of course, and that sort of gives you leverage into saying, well, listen, you as ACUM only represent 45 or 75 or 82 or whatever percentage of all the music we play. So that means we should be able to get a discount worth so much. And this is what works internationally really well.
Have you, speaking about your club, and obviously you now have a challenge as well in the courts, how would you feel about having technology put into your club to listen to the music to prove how much of it ACUM controls versus doesn't?
In our unique case, it would be a great possibility to finally pay just what we need, because really I'm just getting into bargain. It's not really the question whether I played or not. It's just I'm facing a lawsuit which I cannot really handle, because it's not even a question if what we had, how much percentage, they cannot prove it, I cannot prove it, it just, it's all there. So in this case, it would be a really fine solution. And basically the other problem which we are facing, it really doesn't go to the artist. I'm fully aware of it. I experienced a couple of productions which I was involved in them. I know the money just doesn't go to them. What's the meaning of paying, the royalties if it just pays for the really high buildings and salaries for the lawyers?
Adam, I've got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How easy would it be for your conference next year to make every event where DJs perform to have technology in it to prove how much is and isn't controlled by performing rights organisations? So that you could be a case study in reporting and a case study in helping the clubs to prove their worth.
I would love to have every club in Tel Aviv monitored for this event for 4 nights. Something you need to understand as an input, we started at 2014 taking this royalty subject, bringing it outdoors, because a lot of the club owners and the artists are complaining about this. Where's the pension? Where's the art going? Everybody's paying, the artists are not getting paid. Now, I invited Yuri from DigiMonitor already for the previous event, and we did a survey, מה שנקרא סקר, a survey with 8 clubs that provided music for about 30 DJs, mostly locally and from abroad. And I think about 2 tracks was something that ACUM actually recognized. The music that is played on the ground is nothing to do with ACUM. ACUM is taking their list and their keys and the way that they considered music from radio, from playlists, and from all kinds of keys that are not anything to do with modernized music these days. They protect old poets and they don't consider DJs as music, but they take the music from most clubs and bars that play DJ music. So there is a big issue here that most club owners are afraid to open. They're seriously afraid to show their face and say something bad about ACUM, because ACUM will find them and take their bank account and close their business. This is the reality. This is what we're trying to do here year after year, and help the artist and help the club owners, the people that allow the space for the music to open. And I think the main key issue is what DigiMonitor, the startup for music, is doing these days, is that allowing a startup technology to give the answer that what is actually played and who should get paid. And this is with you, Mark, the great work you're doing all around the world. I think this is the main thing, to protect the holiness of the music for the artists, for the crowd, for the whole industry around it. This is something that needs to be fixed immediately.
I'm not sure I can top that, but what it does sound like to me is that there's a flashing red light in Israel in a way that there has been in other countries that has been managed, and it sounds like we need to start building a closer relationship with AFEM and at least start to understand their thinking, because we have seen a softening in gamer in Germany. You start to find individuals that work in those companies that understand the scene and understand nightlife. There's always one, and when you find the one, then you can get in and you can make change happen, and it's happened in countries we never thought it would.
I think one of the biggest changes was during last ADE. 2 years ago, SACEM called Booma, and they said, basically, are you working with a DJ Monitor? Well, you should stop working with them because they provide transparency. That's what we do. We provide transparency. During last ADE, they signed us, for all the events and venues in France, which is a huge advancement. So the thing is, PROs can change, let's say, between 1 or 2 years. And let's just hope that this will happen in Israel as well.
I think you have right now in this panel a transparency of the whole industry, especially for Israel, with Shay and with Yaakov that are sitting down here, that can bring together a lot of the business owners to know that today there's an alternative for the situation. And when you have a few club owners backing them, the voice can be heard, specifically when you have the answer that is your technology to provide this.
Yeah, it's a PR thing. I mean, we as you said, we had the same situation years ago in Germany. I mean, the GEMA was blocking as hell. The Performing Rights Organization, GVL, was blocking as hell. They even don't have technology in lovely, rich Germany. So everybody sued them now, so it's causing a lot of pressure on their side, and they will not survive it. That's something which is 100% clear. And on the GEMA side, I mean, we did panels, we talked about it, we invited them, we blamed them, we did everything, just it's a PR thing. Yeah. And the day will come, and then they cannot say, no, we ignore it. So that's crystal clear, and that's 100%, and you have to get on the nerves until the press will know everything, and then, yeah, the death is in front of the door for them.
I'm conscious of time, and I think we should kind of conclude on some actions, but Ralph is right. Every country where we've pushed through a media partner to create a story about what's wrong, within 2 years, something has gone right. They've changed a policy, they've done an assessment, they've hired a company like Yuri's company, and change has happened. As soon as you make it public in the right way, with the right partners, and as soon as the international community comes in and shines a light, as they say, then it's very hard, especially when 9 or 10 other performing right organizations have changed. It's like dominoes, one, then one, then one, then one. And now they're all chasing to be the good guy.
There is one thing, though. I think that the music industry should take responsibility and ownership, as we have done, for instance, now in the UK, where PRS said, let's go ahead. And luckily, we have a few ambassadors like Loan and the Fabric Keith, etc., who set out to endorse what we do. But still, there's a lot of clubs, etc., that are reluctant to let us in, and we don't want this technology in our club, and it's unfortunately, once you get the PROs to look at our way and to provide a fair system, then music industry should take their responsibility and allow them in. I think that needs to be said.
And I think that sounds like our conclusion is that we should work away from this meeting now until next year's event on how we can bring the clubbing community together at least, and nighttime together, say, let's take it into our own hands and prove something. And that means I can go and get the international community to come in, other PROs to share how they do it, and other nightclubs to say how it's a good idea to do it, and we'll do everything we can to help.